kind of like obstacles when, with the subject so far? Anything I can just assist with. We will look at the formative and your progress there at the end of the lessons then, past the two lessons. But what do you like? Give me a bit of an update now that I know that you're redoing this one.
So far, I'm enjoying the class because I go to follow up your slide and your notes, and then I'm happy about it. As I told you that um, I've been listening to one of your recordings. I mean your slides about the Bonita medical aid, and then also the tips when you are going for interviews, which means I've been in an interview since 99, 20 years ago,
Yeah,
25 years, been going
yeah,
to the interview, same job. So I found that for me to go on that one because I want to move on to another department so that when they interview me, I know what to say. I mustn't over talk and then sort of those things. So I'm happy so far. When
I'm
during
glad.
the then I'll ask me some question if I have got questions. And then the other thing I would like to know these assignment they need the referencing.
Yes. So
I've got
because yeah, go ahead, tell me.
yeah Harvard. Eh?
Yes, the Harvard method. Yes. So as far as I understand, or because I'm not sure what happens during, I'm saying your other subjects, but do they not give you like a power course, like a power class on referencing? Do they not do that on campus, or within your other subject or something? Do they not
Mm,
cover? Not. How
yes.
do you, out of just curiosity, how do you then know what the Harvard method is?
Uh, I can't explain that one because when I asked the guy on my first year, I
Yeah.
was begging about something. I ended up going to the whole campus, I mean, to the campus, and then was assisted about another guy, which is Washington. Now,
Oh,
when I
Washington.
phone and
Yeah.
yeah, and then that is no longer they have been promoted. Then I
Yes.
said to myself, last week, as you say, we have to meet by the campus, and then I was gonna meet him, then ask, but they told me that he wasn't there even. So I'll find some means to meet him, like maybe this coming weekend, Saturday, and
Yeah.
then he's very expensive. He's the one who was helping him for the first day. But I've mentioned that I am begging about referencing. I don't know
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Mm.
Washington. Yeah. I must say, I haven't, now that you say, I haven't seen Washington for a really long time. Again, I'm not always predominantly on campus, but the thing is, again, he worked because he moved into the Boston City campus side, eh? I'm saying that those offices on that side, on the left side when you go into the office, I'm saying to the campus. Um, but uh, but so do you have Washington's email that you can maybe just contact him directly?
Okay, I'll do that. I'll phone on Friday and then ask about his email address, and then I'll jot an email to him. Then I'll take it there.
I'll just yeah, just remind me. I can forward it to you. I can just forward it to you. Okay. So I do have is it's Washington K, I think, at boston.co.za. But I'll just forward it to you via WhatsApp, and then you can just maybe just do a virtual consultation with him if he's the, because obviously Washington's like the best. Yeah, he really is. Like he helps with everything, and he is super competent, more than competent, right? Okay. All right. All right. So just tell me, what do you so far? What do you remember what the last lesson was about? So moving on to, within our on-air aspect and kind of looking around that area, just introducing you to some concepts there. Um, do you you had a look at the last one, right?
But induction.
No, I'm saying lesson. So we're going to do lesson 11 and 12 today, but you've had a look at lesson 10, 9 and 10, eh? in the
Okay.
previous. Yeah. So just make sure, yeah, that if there are any questions genuinely with the classes or the content, whatever it may be at any one point, exercises within the textbook, even though there are, like, I know that the activities do have answers at the back of your textbook, right? It's, it's always better if you have someone, like I say, your lecturer, just walk you through anything that you have obviously done, and then like I say, coincide that with what the answers are in the book as well. Okay, all good. Shall we continue?
Yes, we can. We can
Okay,
continue.
all right.
Bishop.
So today's two lessons, 11 and 12, it's basically like a part one and a part two. They're not too long, but that's what I'm saying to you. After the recordings, then let's spend some obviously like individual time. Let's look at the assignment and let's look at your progress, because there isn't anyone else in class, so we can do that, right? Okay, but so part five of eight. If any reference that you do need, we are looking at chapter 3.5, informative and entertaining content. So page 94 to 109. Always good to please have your textbook with you while we follow in, and the product life cycle. Okay. So as I said in the previous lectures, we started touching on content, and again, I'm not going to run the slide. You can actually see just fine, right? All good. So I'm just gonna, you can see I keep going on with my little mouse there. Um, all right, but as I was saying, yeah, with the previous one, just introducing you to the concept of content, like what approaches we must use, like where do we find content, that type of stuff. And should that not be in detail covered, we are going to move into a little bit more of a further understanding throughout the next couple of lessons, because we are, like I say, dealing with what happens on air, right? So programming anything to do with, like I say, on air, the shows, the production of it, the advertising, even to a certain extent as well, but the programming aspect of it. So none the business side, right? So the product life cycle that we're going to look at has four, and so just to give you a bit of a teaser as to what it looks like, it's four phases, right? Introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, and that applies, it applies to shows, right? That we actually see them grow throughout certain phases, obviously proactively at the end of the day. So when I say that, we're talking about presenters and teams that put in proactive effort into the show, and make sure that obviously they are growing with the life cycle, or because at any one given point the show can fail, and it can just be cut and just be dropped altogether, right? So it won't even have time to go through this organic life cycle, right? But the radio shows do have a limited life cycle, and like through how, like, whatever shows you have listened to on whatever stations you have listened to throughout your life, at some point, anyone and everyone, like, not, it gets fine, sounds terrible, but the point is that you don't stay on that show forever, and you don't stay with that station forever, never ever, no one. And so the thing is that it runs its course. You also run your course with that show. Perhaps maybe you'll be promoted, or maybe demoted to a different show, and you'll start all over again in terms of the life cycle itself, because it's a different audience, it's a different show, different obviously elements that make up that particular show. But it does have the four stages, like we said in the slide to come, and every single phase there are certain adaptations to the way that we want to deal with that particular growth, right? And have ourselves really focus on, again, making the most out of that particular phase, so that we can obviously, produce the best content, and obviously execute and broadcast the best shows that we can, right? So it's broken down into the content mix, and content is needed in the introductory phase, the growth phase, the maturity phase, and the decline phase. Content it's everlasting. We have it all the time. Every single station in the world has content to any level, so any depth and any level. Maybe on some stations it might be kind of plastic, and might be surface level stuff. So very basic stuff. on certain shows, most definitely throughout, let's say the lineup and through obviously the week lineup as well. There'll be a variance of, so you can compare like extreme contrasts, like maybe like breakfast compared to maybe overnight shows, right? Where overnight shows predominantly right now, obviously, are as you might have noticed, perhaps maybe you've caught radio in, like the early mornings or like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night. It's pretty much automated right now. So it's just the music, it's just production, maybe even some pre-produced segments that make it a little bit more interesting, but imaging and adverts that go out at those automated times, right? So what I'm saying is that it's a complete opposite to, let's say, a breakfast, which is super busy, very content focused, a lot of sponsorship, a lot of advertising, competitions, whatever it may be, right? Um, and a lot of elements. So big team, it's a big team, minimum 4 or 5 or whatever it is on commercial stations, right? Because we have obviously the sports, the news, the traffic. We have desk controllers, and we have the host, perhaps maybe, and a co-host and contributor as well. So the teams can be quite big, and so there's many moving parts in comparison to the complete opposite, as I said there, right? But in any one show, there'll be some kind of variant of quote unquote content, right? Because I say quote unquote, it genuinely, again, a very basic cross promotion on a show to another show is content still. Whenever someone talks on radio, like in a link, it's considered content, right? That they're talking about, right? So, the most important part of any radio show or content piece is to obviously make sure that when you do come up with a concept, or you do like put together your content in that link, like it has to obviously be interesting to that listener. In any way, it's got to engage them. Engage means to keep them interested, right? It doesn't always mean that they've got to interact, but they've got to be interested, invested in what you are doing on air. Otherwise, it's kind of for nothing at the end of the day. They're not going to be happy with it. They'll switch off. You're going to be bored. You're doing mediocre to bad radio. And we hear it all the times. Man, I even do mediocre radio, like at certain points or whatever it may be, not on purpose, but sometimes things just don't work out, and sometimes the content falls flat, whatever it may be. We consider it a mediocre attempt. Ideally, what the presenter wants to do is always aim for a good show, and sometimes a great show, because greatness really only happens now and again with magic moments. And really, again, it's one of those things that you don't want to become, you don't want becoming a norm. So good radio is what we really want, and great radio at any one given, like, impromptu time, right? So from a commercial perspective, the longer you can keep a listener engaged, obviously they're going to be around for more advertising, more spots, more elements of the show itself. We want to increase that time spent listening, which I know that having a look at those RAMs that we did discuss in the beginning lectures as well, when looked at researching and whatever it may be, the main aim is to keep them there longer, because we want to be able to sell. We need to make money. Return on investment for clients, where they've paid for certain ads or advertising space with the station. And when we say return on investment, they would like our listeners to maybe go and buy their products and use their services, and be aware at the end of the day, a long-term dedication or loyalty, commitment to these particular, like I say, clients, brand, services, products, right? So if there's no advertising, the content is still considered paid for by the user. For example, downloading a podcast, which takes time and effort and sometimes data. So to a very, very small degree, but still a degree nonetheless, like downloading a podcast to your phone or streaming it even costs a user, or a quote unquote. So obviously in the digital space, we consider them users. but it's still a listener at the end of the day of that station, right? That is enjoying the content. So at the end of the day, we want to be able to make money, because that's the only way stations stay alive. Um, and not even as a like kind of like an urban myth. I say this to everyone because it just happened, man, and I was super shocked that Ekurhuleni FM closed their doors, because they've been around for 30 odd years. They used to be East Rand Radio. I literally have said this to every class because it's on the top of my mind. They were doing quite well I'm saying from the outside. It looked like the station was, obviously it was profitable. There was a lot of advertising, but obviously I mean, that was clearly not the reality. Money was being burnt, not enough. I mean, they were paying all their presenters, and it's a community station, which is not the correct thing to do, because money every single month adds up. And also, what contributed to it is that the main saleswoman, the woman that was actually bringing in everything, almost everything in the advertising. I only know this because, again, I went to go and train them for a couple of months and consult there about 2 years ago. She had to retire. She was in forced retirement because I'd reached, I think, 66, 67, and she was still working like a beast. I mean, she was bringing it in. She had so many great relationships that she's built up over many, many years in broadcasting, and she was bringing the money. So when she left, they couldn't clearly find someone of the same kind of caliber. And it, again, is just, I mention it because it's just a reality check, so that any I said any old community station in the country specifically is at risk of closing down, right? A disengaged user is less likely to buy another piece of content with their data and time. So even, let's say, go download an app if the station has an app. And there are many other ways that we consume. Obviously, the station can consume something simple as a obviously data usage, and let's say obviously time, which people are most finicky about. So, at the end of the day, that's kind of the priceless commodity at the end of the day. From a public broadcasting perspective, no value can be put on a piece of disengaging audio. Like, you genuinely can't back it up. You can't say, man, excuse this, or there was a reason to it, or you will enjoy it if it's just not great, and it's not interesting, it's not good quality, whatever it may be, right? It had no purpose for it to exist in the first place, right? Okay, so listening longer, as we said there, what goes into a radio show or a podcast. I'm just going to increase the size. Whoop, too much there. Right. Okay. So the product life cycle, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Obviously, again, this is when we're in our prime. We're going to go through it specifically, but just to note that, one, obviously, over the time of the lifespan of the show itself, and then the sales volume. So the more, as we explain further, and you understand what each phase involves, you'll see why the maturity phase becomes the one that is the most profitable throughout the life cycle itself. Okay. Um, there it is again: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. A more simplified um, infographic over there. So I'm just going to make that a little smaller. Just at this point, before moving on, is there any question about what was introduced there? All good? Understand?
Yes, Mr. Chris, I do understand everything what you've been um
Okay.
saying on the
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
And
I mean, yeah, tell me.
um where do I find this recording? On my phone or on Call Campus?
The recording when it's done. Oh, I will upload it to YouTube, and then Grant will share it to Cole Campus.
Okay.
But I can,
And then the
yeah, I can
mention
just forward you the links as well once they're up. I'm saying from my side, I can just forward them to you if you want.
on my spare time, and then I can go through and then refresh and then understand. Because when
Mm,
you are in some of the things you can pick up some of them because you're rushing to note and understand what is
yeah, no.
happening there. So I would like you to maybe to forward to me these recordings, and then on my spare time I can do the follow up as you heard me say. I was interested about that one which you sent this morning. And then the other question is that I heard you talking about at the back of my textbook. I can find the way you reference. Which page is that?
So the thing is at the back of the next level radio, right, is the answers to all the activities that you'll have throughout the textbook. So it starts on, let me just go back here. So after there's a whole there's a whole section on the bibliography, right? And then the activity solutions start on page 578.
In this next level radio
Yes.
textbook
Yeah.
page, I can have a look on that one, and then I'll find everything what you explain to me, some of the things.
Well, the activities, throughout obviously the chapters, there's activities that, and mostly we normally ask the first years in all the lessons pretty much. You've seen there, go complete activity this or activity that, whatever it may be, right? And then the answers, let's say we obviously, let's say some of it is included in the class, I'm saying, right? Then I'll give you some time to obviously do the activity, and then you'll obviously, like, you know, tell me about your progress or tell me what you've done. But at any one point, you can go and have a look at the answers from page 578 onwards. It'll be for all the chapters. We'll have the answers to those activities in the book. Okay.
I find the radio landscape.
Yes, it starts with the radio landscape. So that's the from the first chapter. Yeah.
By this one which you talking about, you've been summarizing them inside the book, or
Yes. Oh, what you mean the slides? Yes. So they are. So so let's just quickly have a look again. Like, so the obviously, let's say this particular lesson comes from page 994 to 109, right? And then talks about the life cycle, which I don't know why there isn't a page reference just here, but it's in 3.4. So 10 to 1 just before this, just before this 3.5, you're going to find the product life cycle, right? But so you'll know to, let's say, go and reference, like go look at those particular pages for all, I'm saying, like obviously all the text around what is being covered in the lesson. That makes sense?
yes.
Okay. Awesome, great. So let us continue with that, and then we'll go have a look at the textbook together, so that just so that you've got your bearings as well, so that you also know how to navigate through comfortably. Okay, so let's go have a look at the first two phases. We're gonna go through the product, obviously, of the service life cycle. Uh, Three widely made assumptions for it. The one is that products have a limited life cycle, which makes sense. I think that's a safe assumption. The success or sales that a product goes through includes four stages. So applicable to this particular situation, it makes obviously sense to, and they've obviously tried and tested this across different products and services. So it applies also well enough to the radio product, the radio show. And every phase the business has to work on different strategies or approaches to ensure the success of the product throughout the stages. So not only at one given time, but rather obviously at each particular phase. Okay. So as we said there, radio shows are no different to a service or a product. And so we can actually apply these four stages to, developing techniques, strategies, etc. Right. So if we look at the introduction phase, we must think of, again, a show just starting out. It's brand new on air. Like maybe just it could be a solo host, it could be a co-hosted show, it could be a team. It doesn't matter. It's about the show, right? And about the I'm saying the cumulative presentation, right? Execution of that particular show. So it says the average time to keep I would say applying what is necessary in the introduction phase is round about 18 months. So obviously stations will decide from station to station what they prefer. So it might be 6 months, it might be 9 months, it might be 12, it might be 18, could be even shorter. And I really think it depends on how much that programming or station manager sees the growth in that particular show and how quick obviously the presenters or whoever is hosting the show can basically successfully, move and grow quicker, right? But not too fast because we can't forget about that listener as well. Um, and so I'm saying to you, it could vary, like I say, between 6 all the way up to 18 months, and that's a safe assumption, right? So when we're starting out, and you must think of a new show, if you ever have been, let's say, listening to a station consistently, then you would obviously be familiar with new shows being introduced every so often, right? So in the landscape that we currently reside in, I'm saying radio, we do that literally every single year. The lineups change, right? And whether it's a good or bad thing is another discussion altogether. But we see new lineups, new hosts, new shows every single year for pretty much every single commercial station. They will apply some kind of change. Maybe now at the fiscal year end, which is where the SABC always applies theirs, and then the privatized stations normally apply theirs probably round about just soon afterwards. So anything up to June, you'll see, let's say, the privatized stations that are owned by African Media Entertainment, Kagiso, and Prime Media make their follow-up changes in, and it is 10 to 1 in response to first what their competitors are doing, which is the SABC, right? Because they are national and they have their footprint kind of everywhere in one station or another, right? Specifically talking about the PBS stations that also do affect the landscape. Sidebar, anyway, before I get I drift off there. So in that first introductory phase, the listener is not familiar with you. That like to the grace of their own, like I say, to the length of the or extreme of their own grace, whatever it is, like they will give you a chance because they trust the station and they like the product, right? So you come on and the station manager will always, the program manager will always tell a new show. It doesn't even matter whether you're an experienced jock or you're a newbie jock, whatever. They'll say to you, do as little as possible for the transition to move smoothly. I'm telling you, to actually gravitate through smoothly. Because of the fact that you've come on and you've taken over a slot that was familiar already with another presenter, another format, another style, whatever it may have been, right? So if you do too much, you'll alienate the listener. They will not like you. Even if you did great radio, they're going to be like, this person is trying too hard. It's too erratic. It's too much. And we don't like it. And they'll reject you. And so the listenership will drop drastically. It should automatically drop just a little bit because people don't like new things and they're not open to it. And they'll gravitate to you slowly as you obviously build like a trust because you do a good show, right? You deliver something that they like. But in that first particular 6 weeks, never mind the months, but the 6 weeks, you actually have to keep your show very simple. You just back announce songs, your station first. I'm saying, as you should always be, branding. I'm saying across promoting across the socials, pushing, and saying almost basically nothing that showcases your personality, right? And as it's very uncomfortable for a host to do that because their first intuition is to talk and to produce content and make a good show. But when you do look at it from the other side, from the listener's perspective, you do start to understand that this does make actually, it makes common sense, right? Okay, so um, so during this introduction phase, you cannot actually talk about religion, politics. Never, your sexual history is never appropriate, right? Because definitely, and then in this particular part here, we don't want to go invasively into theirs. Your sexual history is too much information, and it's just not, man, it'll make a listener uncomfortable in any phase. Controversial worldviews, embarrassing topics, and personal details that push obviously a new person away. So again, you liken it to going on a first date, second and third date, where you you are getting to just know the person opposite you and they're getting to know you. So you're really not going to go in guns blazing with everything that you've experienced, all your lovers, all your baggage, all that type of stuff, and all your opinions, because you're still trying to impress them. I know it sounds a bit fake, but it's true. You want to put in your best foot forward so that this person can learn to like you, ask for another date, and you will do the same. I'm saying it's a two-way thing, right? Um, in the radio context, we do want to be able to talk about all these things and everything else, right? Because a good jock can talk about anything to anyone, right? That's appropriate to that content and context of that station and that audience at a particular time at any one given day, right? So, but religion is a touchy subject because people are very passionate about their religious beliefs, right? Politics, probably second thing that people get really passionately involved in, and sports, I suppose, to a very large extent. Um, Sex is just a little too personal, specifically when you're getting to know someone. You don't want to really go to that particular part of their lives. I mean, really, controversial worldviews are going to alienate you immediately, right? Because strong opinions from strong personalities, which a radio presenter must be a strong personality, will again immediately the knee jerk reaction is that a listener will be like, I'm not like I don't have to listen to this, right? Embarrassing topics they're not ready to share with you, and they don't want you to share with them because they just don't care about you that much just yet, right? And then personal details, again, that just alienates someone. Uh, Continuing with this introduction phase, we'll see the infographic in just a moment. So, a list of some of the things that you are most or more likely to talk about, man, something that you have in common with that listener. So, music is always a safe thing. So, promoting the music on the station, doing like nice music, simple music features like throwbacks and triple plays that are theme based or whatever it may be. Very like mind numbing content, quote unquote, creativity wise. But the thing is, it always works, right? Because people like music that's good and people like it when you like their music too. You anyway are part of that brand. You have to like the music that goes out on that station as it is. Anyway, the entertaining barman or the great DJ. So when you go to a club or a pub or whatever it is, like you're 10 to 1 gonna give a barman or a barwoman a bigger tip and you'll go back to them for the drinks that you like and maybe a regular as well. You'll develop a very surface level relationship with this particular bar person, right? So kind of picture it in that way. Your favorite types of entertainment, such as series that you do enjoy or albums that you just downloaded that are obviously within I'd say the format and obviously interest of that particular listener. Same thing here. Like if they really are an audience that doesn't like horror or whatever it is, or explicit, whatever it is, then you're not going to talk about a series because they're not going to have any kind of um, interest slash commonality with you, right? General relationship topics, so stuff like let's say getting along with your in-laws, and how to navigate through a breakup, and I don't know, how to detox in friendships or whatever it may be. Very applicable and also very approachable. People will want to talk about that type of thing. Lifestyle topics, so anything that has to do with human interest, science, science, technology, health, fitness. So lifestyle topics that people again like. Everything must be catered for that particular. And I keep saying it. You're going to get tired of me saying it, but as long as it's drilled in, that particular target audience, that particular listener, that changes depending on who is listening to you. I'm saying per station. And then personal, not private. That's what I was saying to you about the sex stuff, man. If you want to build like a persona that people will not be able to drop, you're going to tell them something private, and they'll never get it out of their minds. They'll just be like, just can't see you in any other way. And so then you've dug yourself like a hole that you're going to sleep in for a very long time, right? You have to kind of restart all over again with new listeners, and not these ones that you've made feel completely uncomfortable. Anyway, but personal observations about a shared space that you and the listener are inhabiting at the moment. So, for example, something like traffic problems or money problems, or like waiting for your first paycheck in January, because it's so, everyone always complains about how long January is because of December, etc. I'm saying, very, very kind of surface level, but still fun, interesting, or educational, content, or I'm going to say like frames, right? That you can talk about. So this is the same approach one should take to a new show, right? And again, this is kind of like, again, getting to know a person. We're going to do that in a show. So there is a suggested, so according to Tracy Johnson, who did come up with this introduction, and obviously the growth in the what is it, the maturity, etc. phase, right? This whole life cycle. He drew up a suggested, right? I always say suggested because if you're going to apply this, I think you're going to run into problems, right? But it is a good suggested ratio of what you should do throughout these initial months, these introductory months, right? So I'll just make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Right, figure 3.3. 10% only personal observations, and we're going to see the amount of links that constitutes in a show in just a moment, and then we'll break for just some questions, right? The features and benchmarks at 35%. So I'll ask you in just a moment what you understand in terms of what a benchmark is and what a feature is. Lifestyle and relationships at 35, and station, imaging and promotion, 35, features 35, 20% at lifestyle relationship, 10% at personal observation. So just quickly looking at the breakdown of that, which is going to come up there. See now, did it give the 5 links? Yeah. Okay. Let's go one at a time here. So let me just go a little bit smaller. Right. So like the content, again, this is just literally like exactly what we put on the previous slide. So I'm not going to carry on about that. Here's the percentages. And here are, it's the type of content. So for example, station and promotion, things that are happening on the station in your city, your country, and the world, what is happening on your show. So we want to obviously also cross promote different, again, like I say, across different shows, throw forward to the drive, throw forward to the top 40, or let's say it's a weekend breakfast, or it's a whatever, a best of show. Doesn't matter, right? Like use that time, 35% of the time, which you'll see what constitutes links. I think it's 5, to promote your station. Be brand ecstatic, right? Enthusiastic. Features and benchmarks, also another 35% of the time. Their features are normally fun. I say when they're fun, they're engaging or entertaining or infotaining, right? So we can do something like a mental health feature, or we can do like a quiz feature, or we can do like I said, like any type of game, a music feature. Benchmarks are what features are, because features we do at the same time. A benchmark is basically something that happens at the same time every single show or every single iteration. So maybe every Saturday or every Friday at, let's say, 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever it um, is what a feature is. It's a stock standard placement in a clock. Um, excuse me. Yo, excuse me. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Um, okay, but yeah, like I say, benchmarks, we can start off like with the news. The news always happens at the same time, like every day. It's got the same kind of length. I'm saying right after that, depending on what show you are in, you might do traffic, you're going to do financial indicators, you'll do a sports bulletin or update, right? Like these are benchmarks that happen every day at the same exact time. So I would say also part of this 35% should constitute to if your clock or your show includes news, etc., it would form part of a benchmark, right? Relationships include relatable relationship topics or discussions or stories. Lifestyle, as I was saying to you, in the different ways that we can express lifestyle or that we can compartmentalize or separate lifestyle. And then observations, obviously your own, like I say, your own input, 10%, 25, as we said on the infographic, but this obviously makes more sense, right? Um, looking at the sum of all of those, 5, 10, 14 links, right? So let's say in a 3-hour show, we're looking at about maybe 5 links, 4 links, and 5 links again. So 5 links in the first hour, 4 links in the second, maybe 5 links in the third, or any way that constitutes or accumulates, sums up to these 14 links altogether. All right. Before I go into the growth phase, right? So just in terms of, you see, like, there it says, excuse me, links to the time, because I didn't say this, that I present to users. Sorry, I'm going to go get tissue now in just a second. That we talk about something just before, or something that just has happened, like a song, news bulletin that was just read, introducing something that has happened, like a teaser or like a promise competition that is going to start, or a story that they're going to tell, like a hook, for example, right? Um, all right, but yeah. Anyway, so those constitute uh, like the bodies of links, and then we obviously have again, the different aspects of that link, depending on whether it is an admin link, a teaser, or it's a full-bodied link. Okay, let me just stop there. What questions do you have around that? Because that was, like I say, a lot of information, but tell me just from your side what your thoughts are.
Um, sorry.
No
So
worries.
far, um, explaining to me all these content mix and then production. Also here in the little box, the radio content and then the station promotion and the features. We are giving these examples for me. Like this one here for ways that one should pick up the general relationship topics.
Yeah.
You give example like in-laws and them. So, and also here in around this sector, it shows that black is for personal observation,
Over here.
and
Yeah.
then it's 10%, and then 35% also for thinking for station and then promotion.
Yes.
Yeah, 35, another 35% is also features and benchmarks, and then benchmarks. You said given the example, I can't remember now. You
For
have
example,
given
like,
also.
yeah, like the news and stuff it's a staple benchmark, right? Just saying it could also constitute part of the show. Should you be going into a show that does include that? I would see nothing wrong with like considering them under benchmarks as well, because just because that's a bit confusing. Features are benchmarks. You understand? Like a feature is a benchmark because a benchmark means it happens every single time you do the show at the very same time. Does that make sense? In the show. And features always are supposed to happen at the same time in every single show so that listeners can develop a bit of a habit and you can develop the habit with them in their life. Does that make sense? Sorry to cut you off, but just to make that, yeah, so that it doesn't become confusing or kind of like, yeah, but continue, please. Everything, yeah, is good so far. Continue.
Um, Also, whereby, let me check here. Um, Religions on top there by page 96.
Yep.
Religion, it said those are not topics in politics. You can't discuss them with the clients. They
Mm,
get like sort of bored and then they don't want to listen to a story. And then also to say, okay, it's like maybe personal ones, like personal day, I mean day details, which means like what can I say, personal details. Last year I have a bad year and then
mm,
I didn't pick up of my budget. I didn't work out with my budget. People they don't want to listen to that. Some other want to listen to those topics. So you
yeah.
must well
Yeah.
for what you're saying in the with your clients or whoever. But some of them I'll pick up them on my own, and then what I need for you to give me the something like a site to write, ask me questions, and then I'll write and then send them back to you. I don't know, you're gonna send it
Yeah.
here via my phone, or you're
So
gonna
we can start. I mean, let's just start in terms of like just in terms of this here. Like we spoke about. Um, so it's not to say that the politics or whatever these things are going to be considered boring, but they are definitely. It's too soon. Does that make sense? Like it's too soon um, to introduce such heavy. They're very what's the word I'm looking for? But they weighted. These are weighted conversations. They come with a lot of um like weight. Does that make sense? So because you can't talk about politics frivolously, right? Or religion frivolously. And just imagine yourself uh again, like going to like a dinner party or going to like a family gathering or whatever it may be, right? Your family's a bit different because they might know you, right? But let's say you go to like a dinner with friends and there's some new people around there, it's someone's birthday, it might be, whatever it may be, right? um, we know of experiences when people get a little bit drunk, or we know even of those very abrasive personalities that just want to be controversial. Does that make sense? But controversial also can be like inappropriate. Does that make sense? It is inappropriate, but inappropriate is also debatable. So, is it appropriate for someone to talk about, for example, sex with someone that they just met? It isn't appropriate. It's just not. It's then like it's not calling for that. I'm saying the setup is not called for that. Does it make sense? But like you can talk about sex with a much more intimate, I'm saying an intimate crowd of people that you known for a long time and they know you as well, and you know how to tactfully and they know also how to tactfully talk about like aspects of sex, that are or it will be considered appropriate because you'll have respect for the topic and who you're talking to. And again, they'll also not be alienated or whatever. Right. But the thing is that any one particular thing when you meet someone, right, can put you off. That's the thing. Because we're very sensitive and we also don't have, again, we don't have the tolerance for someone that we just met. We don't, because we don't need to. Do you understand? Does that make sense? That we have no investment in them. I don't know. Is this making sense so far?
true,
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I mean, you can, like I say, you're hopefully thinking about, people that you've met as well throughout, let's say, your life, and you can think of these particular situations where you just be like, yeah, you know what, it just wasn't, yeah, it, we could have spoken about anything else, but we just didn't need to speak about that. Like I say, you know how like I say, it's very important. Religious practice and identity is super valuable to people who do, like I say, do identify with a religion. So someone like even coming in and starting to talk about that subject, everyone is on edge. Does that make sense? Because what is that other person going to say that can't be um challenged? Does that make sense? That you're going to say, you're going to say something. And so you don't want to create that kind of animosity with a listener when they're just getting to know you. It's also remember that, let's say this is a long time, right? That's nearly 2 years. For me, again, it's far too long. But just to kind of like back this up, these people don't listen to you every single day or every single show. They will come in and out and in and out, like I say abruptly, right? Because they're not really fans of the show just yet, but they are going to sooner or later get to know your name first and foremost. That's really important. Like that they actually know, they can say, oh, well, that was Margaret or that was Chris, or I know that Chris hosts the show. You'd be surprised how long it actually takes for a listener to care about the fact that they know that they will retain your name, right? We always see this in focus groups, right? Um, and again, not to continue on and on about radio because I can, but that makes also sense. So just to not take this in the sense that it will bore them, it'll just put them off completely. You understand? And in any way, put them off, make them feel uncomfortable, or they'll get, like I say, in some other way, just feel that they need to take a different stand and not be around you and your conversation. Um, but yeah, but otherwise correct and all good. Um, yeah. It's what is the do you listen to radio? I mean, do you listen to stations?
Yes, Ukhozi YFM, and then
Oh,
99.7.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
Yeah. I was going to say, and anything. So are there shows that you particularly like?
yes, I do.
Okay,
Some of
great. Yeah.
like,
Tell me.
sorry.
No, sorry, there's yeah. Go ahead, tell me which ones they are. It's just storming here. So just excuse if there you can hear any thunder and lightning. But tell me which ones do you like?
Um, Ukhozi YFM, and then
Yeah.
99.
So
Because,
I'm saying which shows. I'm saying which shows, which presenters.
sorry.
Which shows and which presenters on those stations, if any.
Um, I'm not exactly knowing which are their names, né? But I can
Okay.
listen to the conversation, the way they talk. Like the one which I was listening this morning in a taxi, because I travel with a taxi, né? My
Yeah.
car is a problem. Then it was why they were interviewing why Uko's YFM. They were interviewing small kids like for 6 years and downwards, and
Yeah.
then asking them, did you vote? Why did you go to school? And then those small kids, I think the other one was 9, and then he was telling the presenter to say, okay, I like to vote. I mean, people to vote. Like tomorrow, he says it's their tomorrow, it's
Yeah.
their right, by the way. And then tomorrow is a human rights day. And then they
Yeah.
said, yes, fine. The child for 9 years, yes, it's fine because we all have our rights to vote and then to choose who's gonna be our president.
Cute.
I was so shocked to from some other things like that from the 9-year-old child.
Yeah.
So
Very
and
cute.
I liked
Yeah.
like for a long time, I can listen to it, and then to hear, say, from the small children, I like them to hear their point of view. Where
Yeah.
are they standing for their tomorrow?
Yeah. Very nice. Okay. So something memorable at the end of the day, because if you can also recite what you enjoyed quite particularly, then the piece was good, and the DJ did their job. The show was a success, because we say memorable moment, something that you can actually share, like you're sharing with me, and again, quite in detail, means that it made an impact and it made a good impact, even if it is for that moment, you understand, like it was insightful, it was entertaining, it was educational, as we always say. Okay, good. Yeah.
And I don't expect them to talk like that about tomorrow's day.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's kids are cute. I'm saying when in the correct context, I always say that. I say that with a pinch of salt because we can all be a bit intolerant at certain times. But that's cute, like I say, because it's a better it's a nice perspective as opposed to talking to the adults who can actually vote.
And
So that's very cool.
they didn't ask or they didn't go back to think about it. They're just saying straight away. If
Yeah,
they ask them, they straight to this. Dude, all the answers were there. I don't understand that for the 9-year child to talk like
yeah,
that. They-
yeah.
oh,
That's very good. I'm glad. Okay. Just to kind of like I say, take some stock, and I'm glad that you are hearing some good radio out there and that you are listening to radio. And what I want you to kind of put in the back of your head is maybe, I mean, like as we talk about these phases tonight, try and identify where you think those particular shows might be, based on the stuff that we actually talk about. Okay. So as I said, that's why I wanted to introduce it in terms of, get your mindset and say, okay, maybe this actually makes sense in terms of like the show that I was listening to. I think that show that you're talking about, is that not the lunch or the brunch on YFM? Uh, so I always
yeah,
see
it
them.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I see them post. I see their social media. Um, Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sidebar. Okay, so let's
okay.
let's let's finish then up this first part, and then I'll give you a bit of a break. But okay, let's go into the growth phase. So the second phase, the stage of the relationship. So again, just using that metaphor, where you've gotten to know each other a little bit better, so you are comfortable to certain extents with the other person. And again, not to make it all about a relationship, but about, like I say, a host and their show and that listener, but they are more tolerable, right? They're tolerant of your flaws, and they maybe see them as something that's a bit more endearing now. They're also going to learn further more about you, and again, you are constantly learning about your listener, but they're okay for you to share more personal information. They actually want to know more about you now. Like they're saying, give us a little bit more, show us more of who you are, because we're ready for that. We want that, right? So, learning theory tells us that repetition is key to knowing and understanding something. So, after listening to a presenter on air for, like I say, about a year and a half, you're either going to choose to completely like or dislike them altogether. Um, and you'll either continue listening or you won't. You'll be a fan or you won't be, right? And different people will like different things. So everyone is not going to like you, but not everyone is going to hate you either, right? But at least let them have some kind of emotional response to you, because then you've actually made an impact. This is where your personal opinions they're actually requested. They want to know, like, so they don't want you to talk on surface level anymore. They're like, look, tell us more. Tell us what you feel. That's your job at the end of the day. You start talking more about human interest topics and relevant content pieces. So let's have a look at the breakdown for this one here. Um, So station and promotion goes down to about 20% here. And again, please, you'll see that station and promotion goes down to about 10% in the decline phase, right? But it really, please, in context, right? If we're looking at a breakfast show, let's just say, so that this hits home in terms of like a reality. If we're talking about a breakfast show will never stop at the capacity of their station. I'm saying the promotions or the advertising, etc. Right? Because it's so I'm saying so advertising heavy, but perhaps maybe the ad hoc cross promotion will decrease. Let's say the longer that they are on, and let's say the breakfast is now dying down, and it's going to have to be replaced. So I just want to do as a sidebar, as a just to think on the side, have a think piece. As we talk through. So anyway, but station promotions go down to 20, features and benchmarks at 30%, right? Lifestyle relationship 25, 20% for personal observation. And now you start talking about the heart. So really trying to really get in touch with like pulling at the emotional heartstrings, and they'll allow you into that deeper personal space and that connection. Again, it's what they're going to like at the end of the day. So again, everything's still the same, but here including emotional, personal experiences and opinions is what heart is about. Observations are one thing, but personal connections, letting them get to know you, like what happened as a kid, your relationship with your parents, like what you feel on moral standards, that type of stuff, right? Okay, what does that constitute to? 3 links for station and promotion in the second or growth phase, right? Features and benchmarks, 5 links, 3 links for relationships and lifestyle content and or lifestyle content. So you can imagine like that might be one call out piece, right? That has, let's say it's a call out and maybe 2 links of voice notes or a call out, whatever it may be. Or it could be an interview, right? We must think of different aspects as to how we can execute these things. Can be an interview over 3 links, right? Um, 2 features or benchmark features throughout the show. So over the 3 hours, rather to separate that, like I say, maybe in the 1 hour, the first hour and the third hour, you would have 2 separate features or 2 separate benchmarks. Personal observation, I do believe that that can be integrated and heart can be integrated into any of these ones over here at any one given point, definitely in any of these 3 over here. And heart, if we're talking about combining heart with, let's say, personal observations, we might talk about specific anecdotes. So anecdotes of personal experiences, right? But I don't see why a personal experience cannot also be tied into a general topic about relationship so that we get a good, well-rounded link or content piece, right? All right. Anyway, so it says growth phase elements. Build your clock, focusing the following times on your growth phase. Uh, this is specifically, let's say, here in breakfast, right? 10 past 6, 41 minutes past 6, 7 minutes past, sorry, 10 minutes past 7, for example, right? And entertainment news before each spot break. And please, really, like, I'm not, this is just merely a suggestion. And because I know radio, like there are many other ways you can execute or interpret the growth phase. Please, like I say, just be aware of that. So time sensitive elements, we know news headlines. So the top of the hour is a full bulletin, headlines the bottom of the hour, right? Top of the hour will probably, so like for example, why at a certain point was doing very short bulletins, right? Because they believed that's what their listener wanted, right? Some stations go on for about 4 minutes, right, with full bulletins and full sports, right, on either side. Sports headlines and news headlines, yes, 30 seconds on either side. Top of the bottom of the hour for weather, so a comprehensive weather report, something that's useful, and a comprehensive traffic report also something that is useful. 30 seconds to 45 seconds, maybe, depending if it's sponsored. We'll talk for a little longer. And also, traffic can also happen every 20 minutes, right? So, every, yeah, so let's say 10 past, 20 past, then obviously it's going to happen as a headline thing at the bottom and top of the hour. And then again at 22 and at 10 to as well. I'm saying for the breakfast and the drive shows, right? And spot breaks, 22 minutes past, 38 minutes past, 52 minutes past. This here is the SABC format, right? So unformatted radio will have spot breaks generically at 22 minutes past, 38 to 40 past, and then again just before the hour ends. Okay. All right. Two types of links. There's the teaser, excuse me. Well, so you don't know anything. So we haven't introduced the clock as it's as on its own just yet, which is fine. The clock is obviously the representation, the graphical representation. We can do the graphical representation of an actual clock and where everything goes out. But please, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want you to get confused. It's not necessary for now. But there are two types of links. One, the teaser, right? The promise or the throw forward. So when we are going to entice them into what is happening next in the next 15 minutes. So the next thing that's going to happen in the show is what we tease to, unless it is a big promotion that, let's say, you need a lot of text messages or I don't know, like entries or whatever it is, and you want to promote it, let's say for 40 minutes or 50 minutes, that's different. But for everything else, you will promote or you'll tease to the next element in the show in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And the actual content piece itself, which is how you will execute the full, obviously, capacity of what it is that you promised. Okay, so just last slide over here for this one here. Some rules to remember: never two songs are back to back without putting imaging in between. So what is imaging? What is considered imaging?
Sorry, I asked you what page is it? I was just listening. What page are we?
Oh, let's have a look.
I
We're
wanted to
at,
follow up.
it was between 94 and here we are. Let me
94.
now hold on a second. Let's start at 94. Uh,
Yeah, with
right. Yeah,
99. You've done 99 now,
yeah.
and then also one. Now I don't know
Okay,
where we
so
are.
yeah, this particular, yeah, where's he extracting this from? Just give me a second. I think maybe it might be in the 3.4. Uh, yeah, just give me a second, yeah. Uh, it's gifts.
Hi,
Fucking next
Peru,
this. I think it's
where you are?
before. I think it's 3.4, eh? Uh, just want to go back. Just give me a second, yeah. Yeah. But I don't normally look at the textbook. Uh, delivery
Or is some
methods. Yeah, 3.4. Internet. Increased stickiness, which was in the previous lecture. I actually don't know because it starts with
okay? Now you're gonna be explaining to me, and then as you explained, I wasn't aware. Where are we now? Which page
yeah, no.
are you
It's
reading?
actually not, yeah, it's not these particular last I didn't make the slides. Sharita made these ones. That's what they are good slides, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know where this is coming from specifically. I will find out if needs be. But for me, specifically, this is why I said to you, like the clock itself is something that would
Mm.
cover later, like later, in lessons to come. So I just I just take it for what it is right now. I know that's not really very helpful, but it should put you at ease. So this is not at all like extensiveness of what we're talking about with clocks. Okay. Is that okay?
No problem, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, go
My
ahead.
for this one I mean, first of all, for thinking, let me tell you now
Sorry,
because I'm
Margaret, I just want to get a tissue because I'm just struggling here. Just give me a second. I just want to get it.
all right.
I'm good now. Yeah. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
I just want to know by contact mix growth and then the contact mix maturity, and then why is it the percentage have dropped from this one which we've been reading page 101? Why are they dropped? Because at contact mix growth, the percent for thinking for station and promotion,
Yeah.
they were
In the growth phase specifically, because we'll talk about maturity in the next lesson, the maturity and the decline, because we're going to complete this together. But basically here is that you will give the presenter and the show more liberty to be more unique. Does that make sense? The opportunity to be more unique. Where let's say in the beginning, when we are trying to build so trust, I'm saying let's say as a manager, right, uh with a presenter in the show, we want to be able to give them a large percentage of structure. Do you understand? Not only for, like I say, because we've been talking about the listener with the relationship with the listener, right? But if we flood, I'm saying to you, more of the show clocks with structure and predictability, like I say, station promotions, cross promotions, etc. Right? It's less likely that one, they will alienate the listener because it's still new to them, but also there won't be the possibility of organized chaos or unorganized chaos, right? We want to try and dominate with stuff that can be controlled. Features and benchmarks, specifically from let's say a presenter point of view, because there also are other forms of structures. They're also at certain times. It also sets like it allows the presenter, even again, a bigger essence of control as well, but also predictability for the listener, an expectancy of what's going to happen at what particular time. And so I'm saying in the this introductory phase, right? It would make sense that only just what remains here, 4 links in 3 hours, would be where we would go and say, okay, play around with these things because they can happen at any other point in the show. Does that make sense? So we decrease it, and you'll see that it'll decrease again in the maturity and decline, right? Because of the fact that the listener one is allowing more sure I mean like we're allowing more independence for the independence of that particular presenter, right? But they really are trusting them a lot, and the thing is that we want them to really showcase across the entire show. So now we're taking a bit of the reins away, right? And letting them play around a little bit more. Do you understand? Like get a little bit more comfortable. Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay, good. I'm glad. All right. Well, okay. So let's do this. This is, like I say, just at this point, not really important because when I say important, it's not relevant to just keep the train of thought where the train of thought is. Thanks for pointing it out in terms of the textbook. Like that still makes sense. Um, and then these two we can get back to when we get back to it. Right. I'm saying when we actually focus a little more strongly. That's the word. Well, anyway, on that. Okay, give me a second. Let me just stop that recording for the moment.